And much love to anyone that clicked on the video. For those that don't know me, my name is Lightning Arts, and today's video is going to be about the system mechanics. And before I discuss any of that, let me hit y'all with a little, I guess, disclaimer and a little bit of background. I've been playing Under Knife since early days of late. I've been playing this game for about 9-10 years. I have much love and passion for this game to where I want new players to experience the same thing. I'm not here to say, listen to my guide or listen to this because I'm right. None of that. I just want to give players or beginners information to where they can make their Under Knife journey that much easier. Because I know for a fact that a lot of Under Knife guides are outdated and old, and most people will probably not want to dive into those videos because of how they age, or they see the 5 years and they're like, I don't want to watch this outdated video. But again, just to put in context, please watch those videos because they are informative. They will help you and your journey with Under Knife. I'm just making these videos so if you want some context and evidence and whatever, how the system is supposed to be played or how this game is supposed to be, I guess, utilized or whatever, I'm here to showcase that for you. So I know I ramble, forgive me for that, but I want to make this video as easy to understand so when you play Under Knife, you have a reference to go back off of. That is the goal for this video. And please join the Under Knife Discord because there are a ton of players that are willing to teach you the game and teach you specific things about the character that you pick. But that being said, let's finally hop into this discussion. Under Knife system mechanics, right? Under Knife system mechanics, pressure theories, and just things that you should look out for and things you should come to expect when playing Under Knife and Birth. I'm going to talk about the most important factor of Under Knife, which is the grid meter, which is there, right? At the middle of the screen between the two meter bars, right, is something called grid. And why do we fight for grid? We fight for grid to attain something called a VOPAL state. The VOPAL state, or when you have the VOPAL state, is when your character has this blue aura surrounding them, right? VOPAL state is extremely important. I think it's not as talked about in the community. VOPAL is important because it does 5 things for you. From what I've experienced in my time with playing Under Knife, VOPAL is the strongest tool you can have in your arsenal outside character specific things, but VOPAL is something you want to strive to get when you see it or when you're fighting. Priority 1 is beating your opponent. Priority 2 is getting the VOPAL gauge. And priority 3 is for you to not lose. Priority 1 should be for you to not lose, but priority 1, beat your opponent, and 2 is to get the VOPAL gauge. And priority 2 just increases priority 1, and priority 3 is just, I don't want to die, right? That's how simple I can label that. Like, you want to get VOPAL. It's that important. And it's 5 things VOPAL does for you. The first thing is something called chain shift. And what is chain shift, you might ask? Chain shift is when an opponent is pressuring you and you're like, okay, you know what, I can't get out this pressure. I don't know what to do. I can't DP, this, that. I can't do any of this, right? When you see your opponent pressuring you and there's like a little gap in between their block strings, you can either do one or 2 things. You can either press D. Right? Let me showcase for you again. You can either press D and quickly input DP, and that can hit your opponent off. You can even press D by itself and get like a little mind game. Let's say you get a little mind game. Players are going to press you, all this shit. But the main thing with VOPAL is on the defensive end is that you want to use it for chain shift. If someone's pressuring you, you want to find that gap to where you can quickly, DP. And this doesn't apply to just DP. You can do chain shift IW. You can do a different special with invul frames. You might just be able to hit a person back. Let's see if I can. You might just be able to hit a person back. These things go far once you have the vocal gauge. And overall, at the highest level, or when you start to approach yourself at that high level, you start to see players do this, right? Let me showcase to you. When players see you have vocal, they start doing this. They start spacing themselves out and waiting for you to waste it, because now they know that, okay, they have this resource. I can't go willy-nilly with my pressure. If my pressure has a gap, they might be able to chain shift off of that. If I do something as basic as, let's say, a assault, right? Let me record. If I do something as basic as an assault, I can get punished. And that's the #1 rule for you beginner players to know, is that when you assault and someone has vocal, that is the worst thing you can do. Because when players see this, or when high-level players see this, oh, I can anti-air. Oh, I can DP. Oh, I can IW. Oh, I can. You like, it's so many things that vocal can do, and how strong it is on the defensive end. But vocal or chain shift can also be used to do offensive shit too. You can do things like this, assault. You can do things like this, run around. Like, vocal is good because, or chain shift is good because you're able to utilize it both offensively and defensively. And I think that's the strongest reason to gain this vocal state, because it can help you out on both aspects of the field, or both aspects of the match. Another thing that vocal does, right? And this is another underused mechanic. There's something in this game called guard thrust, right? And what is guard thrust? Your opponent's pressuring you, right? Your opponent's pressuring you. You don't know how to get out. This is just simple walk string. Opponent's pressuring you, right? Now, mind you, guard thrust is a great mechanic, but guard thrust has its problems. Let's say this. My opponent has vocal, right? And now I'm like, fuck, I have to respect this pressure. Guard thrust is basically a get off me tool. Let me see if I can do it. That's guard thrust. But the problem with guard thrust is, as you can see, I lost. Let me go back. I lost 100 meters, even though it doesn't show it now because I have it on auto recovery, right? Look at this. When I get pressured, I lose 100 meters and I lose my vocal cycle, or I lose my grit cycle, right? But when you have vocal, let's say I have vocal and I do guard thrust. Let me see. I don't lose 100 meters and I don't lose I don't get grit broken. So when you have vocal and you know someone's doing things like this, and this is what you realistically use the guard thrust for. EX move, pressure, pressure, pressure. This is what you can use guard thrust for. Get off of me. Especially when you have vocal and now you're not losing resources, now y'all back into the neutral. This is an underutilized mechanic. And especially when you go in depth with matchups, a lot of players, especially when they fight Wagner, when Wagner does 2-2-C, you can guard thrust that if you have vocal and she loses 100 meters. So that is a underutilized mechanic in the game, guard thrust. So for my new players, when you get vocal, and how to do guard thrust is 2-1-4-D. When you do guard thrust, it's 2-1-4-D. So quarter circle back D is how you do guard thrust. Right? So my new players or beginner players, please utilize this mechanic, because there's a lot of situations where people hold it and you don't really need to hold it. You can get them off of it and still make it that even playing field. Another thing that vocal does, or why you should obtain vocal, is that it increases or benefits your character trait. Hyde's character trait is that he gets more chip damage upon having vocal, and his FF move has better recovery, better damage, and yeah, I think it's better recovery, better damage, and it does more chip, right? So when you have vocal, these vocal traits that these characters have, they get an extra, I guess, bonus, as you will, to make you do things that you weren't able to do before. What Hyde's game plan is that, like I said before, he has chip damage, but when you have vocal, look at the opponent's health. The chip just becomes that more asinine. You're just like, wow. And trust me, it doesn't look like a lot, but it adds up once you start putting in 2-2C. It adds up, especially once you mix in grabs and shit. It adds up. And that is overall good for just conditioning your opponent, and that's something Hyde is great at, just conditioning people because of how his game plan is surrounded with the chip damage. So that's another benefit that you get off of vocal. The last benefit, or one of the other benefits you get off of vocal, is that, let's say my health is low, right? Or I have 100 meters. Let's say this, right? Let me showcase this to y'all. Where's my... Let's say I have 100 meters. Max build player, EX gauge, default. Let's say this, right? I have... Oh no, it's 100. I'll make it easy. Alright. Let's say I have 100 meters, right? And my health is not... It's like below 20. When I hit you and I have vocal, I can do things like this. Let's put him. I can do this. And kind of, in a weird way, I can kind of add more than what I need to. So I do this. I can do 2 EX moves. Let me see if I can showcase this to y'all. I can basically cancel. It's not a good example, but I can basically cancel specials into specials regardless of how much meter I have. So I can kind of meter dump once I get the grid veil off. Right? If I did this with the regular 200 meters, that wouldn't have worked. But since I'm something called grid veil off, I can do that. With the 100 meters alone, I could just meter them. And again, I know this ain't a good scenario, but I think y'all understand the concept. It grants me more destructive power, or more of a damaging route when I'm able to do this, and I can overall close out my rounds if I have the resources met, right? That's another great thing that vocal does. The last thing that's good about the vocal state is the fact that a lot, depending on what characters you have, some characters can grant you a fast assault overhead, right? So this, let me go to Mika real quick, just for a random scenario. When I have vocal, when I play a character like Mika, let's say Aurier, I can do fast overheads. So I can do assault JB, and I can combo it. Right? That's one great thing of opening up people. When you just assault JB, now I get a combo. And another thing that Vocal does is that, look at my meter. Vocal grants me back my meter, and it gives me meter build. So let's say I have 100, Vorpal, 110, but that also depends on how much grid I have at the bottom. So if I charge my grid, right, and I use Vorpal, look at the amount of meter I'm getting back. I got 200 meters for me just having more grid points than my opponent. That's another thing that Vorpal does for you. So I can charge this shit up all the way to the max. Now look at the meter build. I went to 200 off of me just having more grip points than my opponent. But basically, what I'm trying to convey to my newer players is that your priority 2 should always be to get the vocal cycle, or to win the vocal cycle as much as possible, because that will grant you more wins in a round, and it's a good clutch to closing out rounds when you're when your health is low, or when you need to kind of bait out opponents. It's good offensively and defensively, but I say it has more of a defensive utilage or utility than offensive. Because over the course of you playing your characters, you come to find out that offensively, these characters can open player up just by themselves. But when you have VOPAL, now it becomes a wall that my opponent has to come through, because now I'm able to shut a whole bunch of options down. I have the guard thrust, I have chain shift, I have when I hit someone, I can do a grid VOPAL, right? I can get my damage, I can do fast overheads, I can do a bunch of shit because I have this mechanic and this resource, which is very good. For my beginners, please utilize VOPAL way more. Utilize this mechanic because it will help you out in your Under Knife and Birth journey. Another thing besides VOPAL, and I know it's been 15 minutes or 16 minutes, I've been rambling a lot, but another thing that players need to understand with the VOPAL or how Under Knife is supposed to be played, Under Knife is a very free game. It's very liberating in a sense, because now Under Knife doesn't follow the traditional Gatling system of you gotta do A, B, C. You can do B, C, A, C, B. You can do B, overhead chain shift, B, A, C, B. Under Knife is extremely free when it comes to that. So you can make interesting block strings like Mika's charge 5C into whiff 2A. +7 on block. You can do that and do a whole bunch of cool shit. You can do there's a lot of examples, but let me keep it simple. With the Under Knife pressure theory, what you need to understand is that Under Knife has a lot of recovery frames. And when I mean a lot of recovery frames, a lot of recovery frames. Let me show y'all a very easy scenario. Where's Gordo? Where's Gordo? Right? Gordo is a good neutral character, right? But a lot of, I guess, beginners wouldn't notice that if you whip Gordo's 5C, look at the recovery. And mind you, if you whip it, I'm mashing other buttons. I can't do anything else. The recovery on this is pretty huge. But, and that's just me whipping it. Even if you do a thing, we put him to all guard. This should showcase this to y'all beginners. What I do when he's on all guard now, right? When I throw out 5C, the recovery is huge. You can punish me off this shit actually. Let me see. Recovery action. Let's do dash C. Let me see if he can punish me. He can punish me off this, right? And that's me just pressing 5C, not doing anything. Just to showcase an example. Well, Under Knife, and the way the rebeat system works, you want to save your A normals, these normals, either the start of your pressure or at the end of your pressure. So if I'm playing Gordo, and I know for a fact this 5C has a ton of recovery frames, you want to whip it into 5A or 2A. Now I can block. It eliminates that recovery frame. Or it literally destroys any recovery you might have with the C normal. Now I can block it. Now I can do things like this. Let me see. My arcade stick is a little broken, so mind me. I can do things like that, right? Now I can actually have my turn or at least trade with him. You see? It becomes, now the recovery is non-existent. And I can get a little combo wherever I need to do, right? Under Knife, you need to come to understand this pressure theory. And it's present in multi-blood type Lumina 2. You want to save your A normals for the end. Either you start off with A and you end it with A. You want to ideally whip these normals, because now the recovery frame is non-existent. That's the most important thing you have to come to understand when you're playing this game. Now, let's say for example, right? Let me go back to Hyde. Let me tell you Hyde's general game plan and pressure. Hyde's general pressure is you all about you whiffing your A normals, kinda, right? Hyde's 5 charge C is +1 on block. But because of recovery frame, you're not gonna get that +1 consistently. If players see this, you might be able to kind of mash out of it, right? Let's say, for example, doing this. Now, mind you, I can string it to a whole bunch of other shit, but I just want to showcase this as an example. Get to the corner, my G. Alright, there we go. Hides, charge 5, C, +1. Hit back. I can't do nothing because of the recovery frame. Well, if I'm spaced out like this and I do charge 5C with 2A, now I'm able to get that +1. I'm able to get that +1. And since Hyde's 6B is 7 frames, I can do things like this. Hold on. I can do things like this where I'm just pressuring my opponent. Again, I'm going to say this for the last time. You either start off with your A normals, or at least start off with one of your A normals. You start off with 5A. I start off with 5A. And then you end with 2A. I start off with 2A. And then I end with 5A. Because now the recovery leaves me safe. And when I end with 2A, let's say for Hyde, I can go in 2C, 2A with, I can go in for a grab, and I can do a whole bunch of other things. You want to learn this pressure theory in your head, so when you pressure people on underneck, you're not getting hit as consistently. Because when you do a C normal, high C normal doesn't have that much recovery, but the example I show with Gordo, when he has a ton of recovery, now you're like, fuck, how do I pressure with this man? You want to constantly whiff your A normals when you're in a block string. Right? And overall, that's just the theory you're going to come to understand as you play Underknife and as you journey through this game and learn matchups, learn different scenarios and interactions. This game has a lot of depth to it. I don't think Underknife is that hard a game, but you, like all fighting games, you getting into something you don't know can be kind of difficult. What's another thing I can kind of say about Underknife and what beginners need to understand? Oh yeah, the VOPAL trait. A lot of characters in this game have specific VOPAL trait that they have. Like I said with Hyde, chip damage. Let me go to Nanase, or actually, let me go to Gordo again. Gordo's VOPAL trait are one of his general things that you'll noticeably see, right? Let me get rid of VOPAL real quick, right? Look at Gordo's force function. It's big, has no range, it has decent range, right? Has decent range. Now watch what happens when I get VOPAL. I want y'all to see this shit. Watch what happens when I get VOPAL. Same range again, right? Look how big that shit gets. Look how big this shit gets. Mind you, I'm back here. Look how huge this gets. I want to see it, the amount of grid you have. I want to bet this shit becomes enormous. With certain characters, when they get VOPAL, their VOPAL trait change dramatically, or they get, let's say, a bonus or a buff. One VOPAL notice is Yuzu's first function. This, right? Now, Yuzu has an unblockable fully charged. I want y'all to see this shit. Just to clarify. I want y'all to see this. Right? Unblockable. Just to showcase this to y'all. Again, he's on all guard. This is unblockable. I wonder if it's slow. It's slow. Now watch when she has VOPAL. Where is this shit again? There we go. Watch when she has VOPAL. It gets faster. The startup of the moon becomes a lot faster. And now you can combo into it because you have VOPAL. So it's a benefit you come to have once you gain the VOPAL state. It changes how the character operates and it changes the special, I guess, move that the character has. So again, utilize VOPAL, understand characters' VOPAL traits, understand the pressure system with Under Night, and overall just play in a way to where you're not giving up that advantage so quickly. My last point before I end this video, because it's about to be about a half an hour, the last thing I want to explain is shielding, right? And most players don't really go in depth when it comes to shielding, so I'm gonna do it for you. Shielding is one of the most important things you need to come to understand what Under Night. To put it simply, shielding can either do one or two things. Shielding can back you up from an opponent. So let's say, what's a good way I can showcase this? All right, let's say Hyde is pressuring you, and you hold D, right? Let's say Hyde is pressuring. When I shield, I can back him off of me. You see what happened? He kind of just backs up. Right? Now he's over there. Shielding is important, but you don't want to shield too much because you see that green thing, that little green snap on the screen? When you shield too much and players grab you off of that, let me put him to all bars, right? Let me take him off this, or let me just showcase this to you, right? When I do this and I grab you, if I see if you're a good player and you see that little green animation or that green shield pop up, I grab you and look at the grid meter, right? The shit is broken for my opponent. Now I'm almost guaranteed the next VOPAL cycle. You want to shield, but you can't shield too aggressively because now it becomes a strike throw game. Now I can just, alright, I see you're shielding, I'm gonna grab you, get your grid broken, I get VOPAL, and I continue my pressure. Now you really gotta hold shit. The also important thing about shielding is that when you get a perfect shield, it eliminates plus frames. So ideally, something that's plus, like Hyde's 2-2B. Something plus like Hyde's 2-2B. If you shield it at the right time, it doesn't become plus, it becomes negative. Right? So I can do things like if I'm playing Orient, and this is an Orient and Hyde specific matchup. If I shield 2-2B and I do like 5A, right? I can punish Hyde off of that. Now Hyde players can't do it as consistently because they know that I'm shielding it with the right time. Also, shield helps a lot when you're assaulting people. So if Hyde assaults me, right? And you can't necessarily block this or react to it. Like, okay, I can't, he's going to continue his pressure, whatever. He's doing this. Now, if I shield it properly, if I shield it properly, I can punish him. So shield is another important factor into this game. Know when to defend, know when to attack, and know when to play passive. People don't like to say this as much, but I feel Under Night is more of a defensive game the higher you go in terms of skill level. People will start turning way more than what they have to, is because the VOPAL state grants you so many benefits that there's no real need to try to force your way out of pressure, because once you get VOPAL, okay, now they gotta respect me because of all the advantages they have. So I would say Under Night is truly a defensive game, and This game teaches you great neutral. This game teaches you how to play patient. This game teaches you how to take back your turns and overall look for your character. And all fighting games do that, but I feel like it's more apparent in Under Night because of how well the VOPAL state and the grid state is handled and how well it's utilized, right? But I've been rambling for about half an hour. I might cut this video down. This is just the initial recording I have. But if you stuck with me to the end of this video for my beginners and even veteran players that are watching, please leave a like, share the video, comment down below what more y'all want to see from me in Under Knife and Birth. I'm here to just overall make things easier for beginners, and even if high level players want to watch this, I'm not gonna say you're more than welcome, but please share, do what you have to do. And just much love to anyone just stuck with me to the end of this video. And yeah, hope I see y'all in the Under Knife netcode and y'all grinding out your characters and y'all learning more about this game. But that being said, much love and y'all have an amazing day.